Good morning, everyone. Namaste. Thank you for joining me today to honor your mind and your body and your spirit. Let's just take a moment to become present. So find a nice, comfortable seated position where you can sit with your spine nice and long and tall. Diaphragm is nice and open. Breathing in deeply, exhaling deeply, opening your chest, opening your heart. So if you gently close your eyes and soften your thoughts, soften your eyes, soften your shoulders, soften your heart. Observe your breath as it is, soft and gentle, breathing life into you with each inhale and relaxation with each exhale. Feel the grace of being present, returning to that awareness again and again. You may open your eyes. For this morning's intention, you'd like to think of a positive word or a phrase to have with you on your mat and perhaps carry with you throughout the day. This morning's intention, we talk about Satya, which is the second Yama in the 8 limbs of yoga. The Yamas are the first limb, and Satya is the second of the Yamas. And it's about truth. Sat translates as that which has no distortion, that which is unchanging, that which is true essence or true nature. It's about being authentic, which has an energy to empower, versus being inauthentic, which has a draining energy. There's a quote, it's anonymous as far as I know. Not sure who said this first, but the quote is, walk in your own truth. When you show up authentic, you create space for others to do the same. So for this morning's pranayama, our breathing technique, I have another quote. I'm going to be full of quotes today. Just beware. I found so many quotes to share with you, and I actually piled them all into this class today. So bear with me. There's another quote. It's by Emma Newland, and she said, "One very simple way of observing truth in our practice is by paying close attention to our breath. If the breath is strained or shallow, it's likely that our body isn't happy with what it's doing." So with that quote about paying attention, finding the truth in our practice, today's pranayama is Ujjayi, which is Sanskrit for victorious, but we know it more commonly as the ocean breath because of the sound it makes. So if you're looking for that sound to tell you the truth about where your body is, if the sound of your breath becomes shallow or strained, you want to back away from what you're doing and just so you can regain that nice strong sound. So to do the Ujjayi breath, it's like doing two things on an inhale and an exhale. So the inhale, you're going to practice with your mouth open, but if you imagine fogging up a mirror with your breath, and then on the that's on the exhale. On the inhale, it's like Darth Vader. So, and you start to feel it in the back of your throat, and that's where you want to feel it. So with that breath, now close your mouth and breathe through your nose and feel that breath through the back of your throat. And you're making that Darth Vader sound. And that becomes the soundtrack for your yoga practice. So you pay attention. First of all, breath is really important in our yoga practice. But you pay attention to that breath, and it helps you to synchronize your movement to your breath. Again, with like what Emma said, is if it becomes shallow or strained, then your body's not doing something it likes. So kind of back away from what you what part of the pose you're in. So that's our pranayama, and we're going to practice that as we go through the class today. And for our meditation, I'm going to share with you a mudra that's called tattva, and it's a mudra of truth. So you put your hand out and you bring your thumb to the base of your ring finger. And tattva mudra reminds us that our true nature is unchanging, pure, and whole. So if you want to take a few moments to do your meditation, and if you want, you can put your hands in the tattva mudra and just lie them on your knees, your lap, palms facing up, or any mudra, or just placing your hands on your lap, whatever works for you. And I will meet you on the mat without my slippers. I'll take those off. You may come back to your normal breath, and we'll start today's asana practice. And I'm seated up on my towel here, just so I can lower my knees to the crease in my hips, and perhaps a little bit lower. So you may need to do that on a towel or a cushion or even a block, depending on how it works for you to lower your knees. And we'll start with a few sun breaths using the Ujjayi pranayama. So if you bring your fingertips to the mat beside you, inhaling, bringing your arms up overhead, using that deep Ujjayi breath, and then exhale, bringing them back down. like you're fogging up a mirror, that sound. Then inhale, like Darth Vader, and down, exhaling. So you hear that sound, that ocean sound in your breath. Inhale, bringing your arms up. Exhale, bring them down. Inhale, bring them up. And this time, bring your head up toward your hands so that you're gazing up at your fingertips. And then when you bring them down, exhale and turn your gaze downward to your lap. Or just get a little head movement in here too. Inhale, looking up to your hands. Exhale, bring your hands down. Send your gaze to the lap. Deep inhale, Ujjayi Breath. Up. Send your gaze up. Exhale, bring your hands down. Send your gaze down to your lap. Inhale one last time, bring your arms all the way up. And then we're going to twist to the left and bring our arms down. Right hand goes on your left knee. Left hand goes beside your left hip. And just send your gaze to the left side of your mat. Then we're going to inhale using the Ujjayi Breath and turn our head gently to the right, looking over our right shoulder. And then exhale, turn it back to the left side of your mat. Then inhale, lift our arms up. Deep inhale, twisting over to the right, bring our arms down. Left hand goes on your right knee, right hand behind your, close to your left hip. Sending your gaze to the right side of your mat. Then inhale, turning your head to the left. And then exhale, bring it back to gaze to the right side of the mat. We'll do that again. So inhale, lifting your arms up. Swing them over to the left side of your mat, bringing them on down. Sending your gaze to the left. And then inhale, deep inhale, turning your head so that it comes somewhat over your right shoulder. Whatever's comfortable for you. Remember that spot of sweet spot of effort and relaxation. And then exhale, sending your gaze back to the left side of the mat. Then inhale, lifting our arms up and over, bringing them down on the right side of the mat. Left hand on your right knee, right hand close to your left hip. Sending your gaze to the left. And then turning your head with a big inhale to the left. And then sending your head back to the right. Then we'll come back to center. Bring the soles of our feet together in Cobbler's pose. We're going to wrap our hands around our ankles. Just bend our elbows toward our knees and gently send your torso straight back forward. Again, finding that sweet spot. And then come back up. Inhale, lean forward. Exhale, come back up straight. Inhale, lean forward, sending your elbows toward your knees, straight back. Exhale, come back up to straight position. And one last time, inhale, lean forward. Exhale, come back. Then send your right leg out to the side, keeping your left foot close to your torso. Your legs are in somewhat of a figure 4 position. We're going to place our right hand on the inner part of our right knee, send our left arm up to the sky, and then slide down our knee till you get to that sweet spot. Exhaling all the way down. And here's where you may listen to your breath and find that shallow or strained part of it. So then back off, come back up till you can evenly breathe again. And then we'll come back up and switch legs so that our left leg goes out at a diagonal. Right foot's tucked up toward our torso. Bring our left hand to the inner part of our left leg. Send our right arm up to the sky. And slide our left hand down our left leg. Bringing in a nice curved movement. And again, deep inhales, deep exhales of your Ujjayi. Listen to your breath. And then come back up. And you can also use your breath. You can try to inhale deeply and exhale, sending nourishing breath to any part that feels tense. If after a couple breaths, it's not loosening up, that's when a good time to back away. You're starting to probably get that shallow, strained breath. So let's come up onto our hands and knees to tabletop. Your wrist would be right below your shoulders. Fingers are spread out wide on the mat. Knees are right below your hips. Navel's tucked to your spine, creating a nice flat back. And just take a moment to see if your weight is distributed evenly in your hands and your shoulders. And then we're going to send our right leg back to the back of the mat, so the toes are resting on the mat. And then we're going to shift that right leg over to the left side so it comes outside of the mat on the left side of the mat. And then we're going to turn our head as if we're saying no, shaking our head no. So we're going to shake our head no, turning it to the left, and then gaze back at your foot. And then bring your right leg back under your hip, and we'll extend the left leg out. Left toes are sitting on the mat, and then bring that left foot over to the right side of the mat so it's outside of the mat. And then we're going to shake our head no to the right, and then gaze back to the left foot. And then come back. Bring your knee back underneath your hip. We'll do a few cat-cows, and this is where the Ujjayi breath really can be heard. So we're going to round our back with the exhale, deep exhale, dropping our head down, dropping our tailbone down, and then inhale, lifting our head up, gazing out of front, which will create our tailbone going up and our tummy kind of creating an arch in our back. That's cow. Exhale, back to cat, rounding your back, dropping your head and tailbone down. Inhale to cow, bringing your head up, tailbones up. And then just keep going at your own pace. Deep inhales, really listen to your breath, that Ujjayi breath. And then bring your spine back to a neutral space. Bring both knees together underneath your hips so that they're touching, and then extend your right leg back to hip height. Just check in with your hands, make sure that your weight feels evenly distributed in your hands. And then lift your left arm up. And then we're going to point on the inhale, and then flex our foot so the toes are pointing down to the mat on the exhale. Point, inhale, flex, exhale, point, inhale, flex, exhale, point, inhale, flex, exhale, point, inhale, flex, exhale, and one last point, inhale, and bring everything back down to the mat. We'll do that on the other side. So knees come together underneath your torso. Extend your left leg back to hip height. Establish that equilibrium in your hands. And then lift your right arm up. Point, inhale, flex, exhale, 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 and last one, point, inhale, and bring everything back down to the mat. We're going to come into child's pose, so lower your hips to your ankles, extending your arms out front. We'll just rest here for a moment. And then we're going to do some circles with it coming from child's pose. We're going to lift up, turning our body toward, or kind of just moving it to the left. Come up so that we're in tabletop. Don't extend too far above your hands. Just have your arms and your wrists below your shoulders. And then move your hips over to the right, kind of creating a circle. More movement with your hips, and they come back down to child's pose. So again, we're going to come up from child's pose toward tabletop, moving our hips to the left, coming to the front of the mat, and then moving our hips over to the right, and then back down to child's pose. And one more time. Coming up toward tabletop, moving our hips to the left, come to tabletop, shift our hips to the right, and then lower back down to child's pose. And we'll do a couple on the other side. So come up, shift your hips to the right, tabletop, over to the left, and then come down. And create a nice fluid movement. Inhaling, coming up, and then exhaling, coming down. One last time. Back to child's pose. And then come up to tabletop. Tuck your toes under and walk your hands back, coming into squat on the balls of your toes or balls of your feet. And then push down into your toes, coming up to standing position, coming up into mountain. And we'll do our mountain essentials for good posture. So toes are pointing to the straight edge of the mat. You lift your toes up. Spread them out as far as you can spread them. Just noticed the other day, my right foot does it, my left foot's not too good about it, but at least one of my feet is listening to me. And then put my toes back down, lift our heels up, and then bring our heels down. Legs are nice and straight and strong. Could be together or a little bit of hip width apart. Knees are gently bent, navel's tucked to the spine. Back is nice and long, back of your neck is nice and straight and long. Shoulders are relaxed, rolled back. Crown of your head, the flat part of your head is reaching up to the sky, like if you were a marionette, you'd pull a string and everything's all nice and straight. And then we're gonna sweep our hands up and overhead with a big inhale. And then exhale, forward fold, bending your knees deeply, supporting your lower back, bringing your hands to the mat. Then inhale, sweep your hands up to your shins, flattening out your back. Make it nice and flat and long. Gaze is down. And then exhale, sending the crown of your head down toward the mat, down toward the ground. And then inhale, sweep your hands from the mat all the way up overhead. And then come up onto our tippy toes for palm tree. And we'll just sway here. No palm trees could survive today. And then we'll bring our hands back down to the mat. Big exhale, bending our knees. And then bring your hands to your shins, half forward fold, flattening out your back. Gaze is down. Exhale, send the crown of your head down toward the ground. And inhale, sweeping your hands all the way up and overhead. And we're going to bring our arms to shoulder height today. So our hands are out in front of us at shoulder height. And I've decided, after struggling with what to call these, I've decided to call them 180s. So we're going to take our right arm, right hand, and bring it all the way around back at 180. And we're going to bring our left hand to our right shoulder. You want to follow your right hand with your gaze so that your gaze makes a 180 as well. And then bring your hand all the way back, making that 180 semicircle. And then we'll do that with the left hand. So sweeping your hand, left hand out and around 180. Bring your right hand to your left shoulder. Your gaze is following your left hand, so your gaze is at your fingertips, back of you. And then inhale, bringing both hands back in front of you. We'll do that again on both sides. So sweep your right hand all around in a 180 circle, following it with your gaze. And then bring it back, following it with your gaze. Then inhale, sweeping your left hand all the way back, bringing your right hand to your left shoulder. And then bring your left hand back, again, following it with your gaze. Bring your hands up overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Bring your hands to the mat. Inhale, half forward fold. Hands are in your shins, or if you want, you can have them on the mat. That's another version of half forward fold. Back is nice and straight. Chest is open. Heart is open. And then we're going to bend our left knee, keeping our right knee straight. Bring our left hand to the mat and sweep with our right hand from the mat all the way up overhead, following our hand with our gaze, if that's comfortable for you. That's forward fold with a twist. And then bring our right hand back down. We'll switch hands and legs. So our right hand goes in front of our right foot, bending our right knee. Left knee is straight. Take our left hand, sweep it from the mat all the way up overhead, following it with our gaze. Listening to our Ujjayi breath, might be a little shallow here. And bring it back to the mat. Sweeping our hands from the mat all the way up overhead again. And then bring them palms together, and then palms to heart center. We'll place both fingertips, set of fingertips on the back of our hips. Feet are hip width apart. Shoulders are nice and relaxed, rolled back. Chin is tucked to your chest. And then just gently drop your shoulders back for supported back bend. Don't drop your head back. And keep on breathing. Listen to your Ujjayi breath. I must say, I went from doing this pose where I stopped breathing altogether, and then a very shallow, strained breath. And finally, having done it so many years now, I can actually breathe pretty comfortably. And then come back up to mountain pose. How's everyone doing? Alrighty. So inhale, sweeping our hands up overhead. Exhale, forward fold, bringing our hands to the mat, bending our knees. We're going to extend our right foot all the way back to the mat, coming into a runner's lunge position. So left or right foot's all the way back, heels pushing to the back of the mat. Right leg is nice and strong and active. Left knees over your left ankle. Your hands are framing your foot. And then place your right hand on the mat, sweeping your left hand up to the sky, again, following it with your eyes if that's comfortable. Keeping your right leg, your back leg, nice and active and strong. And then bringing your left hand back down, framing your foot. We're going to pivot our back foot so that it comes down to the mat. And then push off your front foot, coming up to warrior one. So warrior one, you're in the lunge position where your knees over your ankle, back foot, the back edge of your foot's nice and snug in the mat. Try to push down and then out so that you're really connecting with the mat, connecting to the earth, finding yourself rooted into the earth. And then with our arms, we're going to sweep our arms up while our torso is pointing to the upper right-hand corner of the mat. Maybe you have a little bit of back bend here or straight up. And then bring our hands down behind our hips, interlacing our fingertips, relaxing our shoulders, rolling them back. We're going to hinge at the hips and just lean forward over our left leg and send our hands out behind us. This is a modified humble warrior. And then come back up to warrior one. Bringing our arms up overhead. And then we're going to bring our left forearm to our left knee. Bringing our torso down toward the mat. And then sweeping our right hand from the back of our right leg all the way up to the pointing to the front of the mat. So that we have a straight line from the right foot all the way up to the right fingertips, creating a nice straight line of energy. And then bring our right hand down to the mat, pivoting our back foot, coming back into runner's lunge. And then bring your left foot back to meet your right foot, coming into plank. Plank, your wrists are right below your shoulders. Heels are pushed into the back of the mat. Hips are elevated, bringing your navel to your, or tucking your navel to your spine, elevating your hips slightly. And then you can come down to the mat, either chaturanga or knees, chest, chin. Either one, keep your elbows tucked toward your ribs. And then slide your hands to the front of the mat, coming into Sphinx. Your elbows would be underneath your shoulders. Chest is open, heart is open. Tops of your feet are actively pushing down into the mat. If this is uncomfortable for your shoulders, you can bring your elbows closer to the top of the front of the mat, sliding them out a little further. Take the weight off. So today we're doing a lot of warriors, and the Sanskrit name for warriors, Virabhadrasana. And it comes Virabhadrasana, and that's the name for all the warrior poses, just variations on this. Virabhadrasana comes from Vira, which means hero, and Bhadra, which means friend. And these poses promote becoming your own hero through self-acceptance. So now we'll slide our fingertips underneath our shoulders, elbows tucked to your ribs, and push up to Cobra. And then up to Tabletop. Then tuck your toes under and up to Downward Dog. And pedal out here for a few moments. In Downward Dog, your fingers are spread wide apart. You feel the weight of your body more in your fingertips, not in your wrists. Arms are straight. Hips are right up, raised up to the sky. And you can accentuate that by bringing your chest toward your hips or toward your thighs. Knees are bent or in a pedaling motion. And then we'll walk our feet up to our hands slowly, coming into a forward fold. And then sweep our hands from the mat all the way up overhead, bringing the palms together and bringing the palms to heart center. And we'll do that on the other side. So inhale, sweep our hands up overhead again. Exhale, forward fold. Bring your hands to the mat, sending your left foot to the back of the mat to runner's lunge. Knees over your ankle, back heels pushing actively to the back of the mat, really energizing your legs. Left hand goes down, goes down onto the mat, and then you sweep your right hand from the mat up overhead, following your hand with your eyes. And then bring your hand down. We'll pivot our back foot so that it comes down to the mat, and then push off our front leg up to warrior one. Just take a moment here to connect with your warrior one pose. Knees over your ankle. You should be able to see your big toe just peeking out from behind your knee. Back foot, back edge of your foot's nice and snug. And then push down in both feet and push out to both ends of the mat, really connecting strongly with the earth. Bring your arms up overhead, creating a little back bend if that's comfortable. And then bring your hands down behind your hips, interlacing your fingers. And we'll pivot a little bit to the front of the mat and hinge at the hips, bringing your torso over your right thigh. Your hands are extended back for a yoga lock. And this is a modified humble warrior. Then push down in your foot, coming back up into warrior one, sending your arms up overhead again. Big inhale, big exhale. Bring your right arm to your right thigh, and then sweep your left hand from the back all the way up to the front of the mat, creating that nice straight line of energy. Bring your left hand down to the mat, pivoting into runner's lunge. Bring your right foot back to meet your left foot, coming into plank. And then chaturanga, or knees, chest, chin, gently down to the mat, keeping your elbows tucked to your sides and sliding your arms out front into Sphinx. Chest is open, tops of your feet are pushing down, activating your legs. Here's a quote from Henry David Thoreau. We are constantly invited to be who we are. Then bring your hands underneath your shoulders, elbows tucked to your ribs, and gently push up to cobra. And then up to tabletop, and then tuck your toes under and up to downward dog. Pedal out here for a moment. And then walk your feet back up to your hands, coming to a forward fold. And sweep your hands from the mat all the way up overhead. Palms come together, palms, then come to heart center. And then we're going to raise our right knee up in front and then send our right foot to the back of the mat, coming into what looks like a standing runner's lunge, but then we're gonna pivot both feet so that we turn to the right side of the mat, or the long side of the mat. Coming into wide-legged stance. Our toes are pointing to the corners of the mat. Heels are tucked in at 45 degrees. Inhale, sweeping our arms up, creating a star. And then we're going to exhale, bending our elbows so that comes into goalpost, bending our knees so we lower our hips to the mat, to goddess. Inhale, come back up. And then exhale, come back down to the count of 3, 2, 1. Come back up. Big inhale, big exhale, come down to the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come back up, inhale. Exhale one last time to the count of 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then come back up. And pivot your left foot so that it's pointing to the top of the mat. And you're going to pivot your back foot so it comes at a 45-degree angle. And we're going to come into warrior 2. Again, our lunge, knees over our ankle for the lunge position. Back edge of your foot is nice and snug in the mat. Should be able to see your toe peeking out over your knee. Send your arms up, shoulder height. Navel's tucked to the spine, creating a nice, strong, self-assured pose. Feet are pushing down and out, really connecting with the earth. Gently turning your head to the left, fingertips. And then drop your right hand as you lift your left fingertips, sending them up to the sky, sending your gaze up to the sky. And that's peaceful or reverse warrior. And then come back to warrior two. And then bring your right forearm to your left forearm to your left thigh, sweeping your right hand overhead. We're going to create that nice straight line of energy again. So side angle, extended side angle. And then bring our hand down to the mat, pivoting our foot, coming into runner's lunge. Sweep your left foot back to meet the right, coming into plank pose. Navel's tucked to the spine. And gently lower knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. And lower slowly. And then extend your hands out to Sphinx pose. Elbows are right below the shoulder. Tops of your feet are actively pushing into the mat. Chest is open. And here's a quote from Sarah Breathnack. Not sure who she is. Her quote is, "The authentic self is soul made visible." The authentic self is soul made visible. I actually love that quote. And then bring your hands underneath your shoulders, elbows tucked to the side, push down gently, come into cobra. And then up to tabletop. Tuck your toes under, come up to downward dog. Pedal out here for a moment. And then we're going to actually walk our hands to our feet this time. So just walk your hands down the mat so they come to your feet, forward fold. Then sweep your hands from the mat all the way up overhead. Palms come together. Palms come to heart center. And then we'll do that on the other side. So palms at heart center. We're going to extend our left leg back and back of us as far as we can go. Then pivot to the long side of the mat, coming into wide-legged stance. Toes are pointing to the corners of the mat. Heels tucked in at 45 degrees. Navel's tucked to your spine. And then sweep our hands up to star. And exhale to goddess. Bringing our elbows into gold pose, bending with our knees so we're coming down toward the mat with our hips. Then inhales, bring up to star. Deep exhale, come back down to the count 3, 2, 1. Inhale deeply up. Exhale deeply down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, come up. And exhale, deeply down. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm going to pivot our right foot so that's pointing to the short end of the mat, bringing our left foot into a 45-degree angle, come into warrior 2, knees over our ankle, and we'll send our arms up to shoulder height, send our gaze to our right fingertips, and then inhale, keeping the lunge position, drop our left hand down, right hand goes up to the sky. We follow it with our gaze. for reverse or peaceful warrior. And then come back to warrior two, arms at shoulder height. Gaze at our fingertips. And then bring our forearm down to our right thigh, sweeping our left hand overhead to the front of the mat. Create that nice straight line of energy. Opening our heart, opening our chest. And then bring our left hand down to the mat, pivoting to runner's lunge. Bring our right foot back to meet our left foot into plank pose, and slowly lower to the mat, chaturanga or knees, chest, chin. Sweep our hands out to the front, coming into Sphinx pose. And our last quote during the asana practice, that is. This is from Aristotle. And he said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Gently push down, keeping your elbows tucked to your ribs. Come into cobra. And then do tabletop. And then tuck your toes under, come into downward dog. Pedal out here for a moment. And then bring our knees back down to the mat. We bring our knees out to the edges. Our toes are touching together behind us. We're going to do a thread the needle with a wide-legged stance of our knees. So inhale, sweep your right hand up to shoulder height, out to the side, at shoulder height, and then sweep it under your torso, bringing your shoulder and your right shoulder and your right ear to the mat. And lifting your left hand up to the sky, or you could place it on the back of your hips, or you could keep it right on the mat, right beside you. And then placing your left hand on the mat, gently push up, coming back up. And we'll do that on the other side. So bring your left arm out, shoulder height out to the side. And then sweep it under your torso, bringing your left shoulder and your left ear down to the mat. And your right hand can be either on the mat or the back of your hips or straight up into the sky, opening your chest. And then push down into the mat, coming back up to tabletop. Bring your knees back to tabletop. And then we're going to roll down. So you can cross your legs behind you and sit back. And then send your legs out in front. And slowly, with control, rolling down onto your back. One vertebrae at a time. Bring your knees to your chest and give them a nice hug. Placing your hands on the tops of your knees. We're going to extend our arms all the way out in front of us, pushing our knees away from us. And then we're going to open our knees to both sides of the mat, bringing the soles of our feet together. Then guide our knees back toward our shoulders. And then guide our knees back together over our chest, knees to chest. And we'll do that. I call these rowboats. So hands on your knees, extend your arms away from you, fully open your knees to each side, bring the soles of your feet together. Guide your knees back toward your shoulders, and then close them over your chest. We'll do that 3 more times. Go at your own pace. Push out, open, pull back, and close. Push out, open, pull back, and close. Push out, open, pull back, and close. Then we'll send our feet to the mat and slide them out and prepare for Shavasana. So as I mentioned, Shavasana actually is a pose, and there are cues for this pose. So bringing your heels to the corner edges of the mat, just letting them flop open. Just resting your whole torso, just releasing your muscles and your bones into the mat. Bringing your arms at a diagonal away from your body, with palms facing up. And just relax all your muscles and your bones into the mat, releasing them. Let the nutrients of today's practice soak deep within you. Placing a gentle smile upon your lips. My last quote is from Marianne Williamson. She writes, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give the other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others."